What's up guys, Judo Sloth here, and today we are starting Pokemon Go, bringing you beginner gameplay, a tutorial on how to start Pokemon Go, lots of tips and tricks for beginners, share with you some secrets for when you start out, and lots of advice with regards to what items in the shop you want to start with, how to throw Pokeballs, and just in general, how to play Pokemon Go. So this video is going to be an all-in-one, lots of strategy advice, tips and tricks, also kind of a let's play Pokemon Go, me starting my journey so you can see exactly what I do, and then you can follow that through as I continue, and I will bring you more guides and tips and tricks videos as we go along. So make sure to hit the subscribe button on the right hand side to stay up to date with all of my latest videos. So when you first start Pokemon Go, you will be able to choose between the male and female character and then kit him out. So there are a few different items you can customize yourself with, and one important thing to note is just take your time with this. Make sure your character looks how you want him to look. I know you're just dying to jump into the game at this point, and a lot of you will have started already anyways, but currently you cannot go back and change this once you have set your character. So take the time, make sure you're quite happy with how your character looks before you start the game, because you can't go back and change that once you have confirmed it all. Now this is just currently, obviously the game has just recently came out, and it certainly wouldn't surprise me if a feature where you could change things around, purchase different outfits for your avatar came into the game. Now Pokemon Go is based on the first generation, so when you start out, you can choose between one of the three starter Pokemon, Squirtle, Charmander and Bulbasaur. You can see the three of them hovering on the screen now, and you click on the one that you want to start with, start a battle with it and get it captured. Now a little secret is that you can start Pokemon Go with Pikachu. It is very easy to do. I'm actually going to start with Squirtle because he was always my starter Pokemon. Made it so much easier all them years ago when you used to face Brock for the first gym leader. Make sure to drop me a comment down below if you played the original Pokemon games. If you do want to start with Pikachu, walk outside the radius of the three original Pokemon, and then when they reappear, Pikachu will be there as well. Now we'll get into the mechanics of how to throw the Pokeball a little bit later in the video, but you can see that you have to hit the Pokemon directly in order to capture it. If it bounces and then hits the Pokemon, or obviously misses altogether, then you are not going to capture it. There we are, we have our first Pokemon. Squirtle is captured, so we can get out there and start our Pokemon journey. So when you first capture a new Pokemon, it is added to your Pokedex so you can keep an eye on your collection. Now the temptation when you first start catching Pokemon is to try and level them up and power them up as quickly as possible. I would not recommend doing that because all the Pokemon you catch at the start of the game are fairly weak, and you don't want to waste your Stardust trying to level them up. Just wait it out. You will start naturally catching stronger Pokemon in the wild. That's then when you want to start using your Stardust. So don't use it at first, because you'll be surprised at how quickly you will start catching stronger Pokemon where you can then use your Stardust, because you'll not end up using the original Pokemon that you catch in a few days. You then have to set your name, what you want to be called, and similar to your outfit, take your time with this. Make sure you get a name that you want, because you can't really change it afterwards. Unfortunately, as you've just seen on the screen, some nicknames are already taken, so you will have to take a little bit of time in order to find one that you can actually have. You can see from the gameplay in the video that it has been telling you a little bit about how to play Pokemon Go, but you don't get that much information, to be fair. So right now it's telling you about Pokestops. Now if you happen to live right next to a Pokestop, lucky you, you're immediately at an advantage. So you do want to have a little bit of a scout around, find out where your nearest Pokestop is. You can see mine's a little bit of a distance, but in a nutshell, Pokestops basically give you free items. All you need to do is visit them and you get stuff for nothing. Now up until you're level 5, this will be exclusively Pokeballs and eggs. Pokeballs are obviously super important for catching your Pokemon, and Pokemon eggs, well you guessed it, they hatch into Pokemon, so visiting the Pokestops basically just gives you free Pokemon. That's why if you live next to one, luck is on your side. Now once you hit level 5, you can also get revives and potions for free, which you can use when battling other Pokemon, for instance when you're in the gym. Now obviously you can't literally just stand there and get free items all day, but it's pretty quick. You only have to wait about 5 minutes for this to cool down, and then you can click again at the Pokestop and it gives you a bunch of more free items. Now the other thing about the Pokestop is the lure module, but we're literally just about to check out the shop and show you some of the items, what I recommend starting with, just a few tips for beginners and how to start Pokemon Go a little bit more effectively, so I will tell you about the lure modules in a second. Now obviously Pokemon Go is a free to play app, but you can buy items in the shop, and if you're going to spend real money at the start, I would really recommend the Lucky Eggs. You can see you get double XP for 30 minutes. The second most important item is the egg incubator, but when you're first starting out, honestly, if you are going to spend real money, the Lucky Eggs is where you want to go. Now I will cover in a lot more in-depth video about what you want to buy in the Pokestop and why. Make sure to subscribe on the right hand side to stay tuned for that. I'll try and get that out to you shortly, but in a nutshell, especially when you're starting out, the Lucky Eggs is what you want to go for. Now just because I'm not leaving my apartment right now, I'm going to use some of the incense. Now you do start out with 2 of these for free, so I'm going to use them because it'd be a bit boring if I showed you gameplay without actually catching Pokemon. Now what this does is lures wild Pokemon to my area. Now this only applies to myself, but with the lure module that is used at a Pokestop and that applies for everybody. So if you live next to a Pokestop, it will inform you if someone has used a lure module on that Pokestop, so you will also reap the benefits of bringing in wild Pokemon. So let's go ahead and use the incense to draw some wild Pokemon to my apartment, and then we can show you a little bit more about how to actually catch the Pokemon and some tips and tricks with regards to throwing the Pokeball. So when you're out in the wild, you can see how close the Pokemon are to you. You can see on the nearby, you can focus in on a single Pokemon and it will tell you how many steps there are. The more steps, the further away the Pokemon is. But here's a Rattata. He's appeared in my apartment on my kitchen table. So let's throw the Pokeball and catch him. Now at the most basic level, I swiped and threw the Pokeball straight at the Rattata. It hit him and that is going to catch him because he had a green circle around him. Different coloured circles indicate how hard the Pokemon is to catch. Green, amber and red the most difficult. Obviously more stronger Pokemon, you will have to use stronger Pokeballs in order to catch them. And as you get further into the game, you can also use raspberries in order to distract them and have a better chance of catching those Pokemon. Now we kind of missed it, but you may have seen when we caught that Pokemon, we got a 500 XP bonus because it was a brand new Pokemon going into our Pokedex. That is why the Lucky Eggs are super important at the start, because all the Pokemon you're catching are going to be new Pokemon into your Pokedex, and you can double that 500 XP bonus. Now that's not to say that the Lucky Eggs aren't important throughout the rest of the game, because they certainly are. They are the best item in the shop, and like I say, I will create a video for you guys going into a bit more depth about what you want to buy in the shop and why. I'll also cover management in that video, how you want to best use the items to get the most out of your money, but let's just keep this video focused on a guide of how to start Pokemon Go. So we've gone ahead and used one of the Lucky Eggs in order to get that double XP when we're catching new Pokemon. Obviously you'll get to see an example of that shortly. We'll focus a bit more on how to throw the Pokeball, in specific a curveball in order to get an added bonus, and how to transfer the Pokemon that you catch and power them up. So we can see that from the nearby section, we have a couple of Pokemon in our area, but skipping ahead just a few seconds, we have already drew a few more Pokemon into our area. Now let's just get familiar with the map a little bit. Obviously I'm static in my apartment, I'm not moving around, but the idea is that you're searching around for Pokemon. The nearby section will tell you how far they are away. Like I said earlier, the number of footsteps up to 3 will indicate how far the Pokemon are away from you. Obviously if they're too far, they won't even show up, but you can identify where they are, which I will show you in a second. But skipping ahead, we have attracted another Rattata into my apartment. What is it with rats wanting to get into my home and on my kitchen table? Let's get him captured. Now if you want to throw a curveball, you have to draw a circle with the Pokeball, but you'll see in this instance, as I was drawing the circle, it didn't light up and have stars around it. In general, you need to wait until you see this before you get the curveball bonus, but actually in this instance, somehow I got it anyway, so you get 10 XP bonus, but because we have the lucky egg running, we get 20. Now, maybe the curveball was literally just about to light up as I let the ball go, but anyway, I'll take that extra 20 XP bonus. I will show you a proper example in a second. So looking at the nearby Pokemon, we've captured 2 of them, but they're both Rattatas, and we don't need them both. So I'm going to show you how to transfer Pokemon. This is used to give you specific candy for that Pokemon, which you can use to power it up, make it stronger, and also evolve it. Now remember, at the start, I wouldn't actually recommend using your Stardust on these Pokemon to power them up because it's purely not worth it. However, you can transfer them and get the candy in order to evolve them and add them to your Pokedex. So make sure that you have the correct Pokemon selected. You don't want to be transferring the one you want to keep, so it may be a weaker one or a one with worse moves that you want to transfer. Scroll to the bottom and click transfer. You can see that we then gained Rattata candy. Now you need 25 in order to evolve it. You'll see that at the moment we only have 7, so we need to capture a lot more of these before we can evolve it. And another top tip when you're starting out is capture every Pokemon that you come across. You literally do have to catch them all. So as we wait around attempting to lure more Pokemon to our location, we can scout around the map and you can see lots of leaves and grass kind of rustling around over in the background where I am lighting up now. This indicates that a Pokemon is in this location. Now looking at the nearby map, that is a decent distance away and you can see it's one of these Pokemon which is indicated by 3 steps. Now the idea is you would walk over towards this location and the Pokemon that it was would be getting closer, so the amount of steps would be decreasing, and that's how you can identify which Pokemon is where. And here we are guys, we have attracted another rat. We do want to capture him though so we can get the XP of doing so and we can transfer him in order to get the candy. So we click on the Rattata in order to engage in a battle and you can see the green circle that is getting larger and smaller. You want to try and hit the Pokemon at its largest point. That gives you the best chance of catching it. Now another very important tip is to try and make sure you stay in an area of good connection. The last thing you want to happen is this, where you lose connection and you end up losing that rare Pokemon. Luckily in this instance, when we logged back in, it had registered that we'd caught the Rattata. Obviously if this was a very rare Pokemon, I hadn't threw the Pokeball, it could be absolutely devastating times. So let's go ahead and compare both of these Rattatas and find out which one we want to keep. Now you can see that the CP, that is the combat power, is 10 for them both. So they are both at the same level and we don't want to use our Stardust in order to level them up. These are both basically really weak Pokemon. Looking at their moves, they both have Tackle and Hyper Fang, so there's actually no difference between them. It doesn't matter which one we swap out, so let's get rid of one of them, and we now have 11 Rattata candies, so still needing another 14 before we can evolve it. And if you don't have a lot of the lucky eggs, what you can do is save all of your Pokemon up, and when you have a bunch of them ready to evolve, then use your lucky egg, so you're doubling your experience for all of them Pokemon that you're evolving. Moving ahead, we've attracted a new Pokemon. We have a Kakuna, so this is a new one for our Pokedex, and you will get to see that new Pokemon experience that I was talking about. Let's also show you the curveball in this one so you can see it in action. As we enter, we can spin the Pokeball in a direction. You can see it lighting up there, stars flying around it. That's when you want to throw the Pokeball. That's when you'll get that curveball experience. But it can be quite hard to master. We'll show you what you do not want to do when we come across the next Pokemon. But you'll see we capture the Kakuna. The new Pokemon bonus, we get 1000 this time instead of 500 because we have the lucky egg going. That's why it's so important, because you get double XP on everything. Instead of 600, We got 1,200 there, and that means that we're leveling up twice as fast. We're going to get them stronger Pokemon quicker, and especially when you're starting out and there's so many Pokemon out there that you haven't caught, everyone that you're adding to your Pokedex gives you 500 and then doubling that experience. So if you're starting Pokemon Go wanting to know what to spend your money on, the Lucky Eggs is definitely what you want to go for. So I think we've covered quite a lot in this video on how to start Pokemon Go, a beginner's guide almost, lots of tips and tricks. We'll start summarizing things in a second, but you'll see that we've attracted another new Pokemon, so let's go ahead and capture this guy. Nibbling at my feet, it is none other than a wild Pidgey. So let's get into battle. Let's show you a couple of examples of the curveball. As we spin it, you'll see it starts to light up, and as we throw it, it will actually curve. So you do have to compensate. You will see I'm spinning the ball clockwise, so it's going to spin off to the right. So as we throw it, you do have to compensate, throw it to the left in order to hit the Pokemon and get it captured. You may have also noticed that as we threw the ball, the green circle around the Pokemon was virtually at its largest point. That is going to give you the best chance of capturing it. So there we have it, another Pokemon added to our Pokedex. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, with me starting out Pokemon Go. Make sure to leave me a comment with the hashtag PokemonGo down below to let me know that you made it to the end of this video. Thank you very much for that, guys. I hope you found it useful. Please make sure to drop me any comments as well with tips and tricks that you would recommend for starting out and moving forward for Pokemon Go. That will help everybody out. Obviously, if you feel I missed something out of this How to Start Pokemon Go guide, please share that as well. I will be bringing you lots more tips and tricks videos as well as general gameplay as well, so make sure to subscribe using the button over on the right hand side to stay up to date with all of my latest Pokemon Go videos. Now, one more tip for you guys before we go. Pokemon Go does drain a lot of battery, but there is a battery saver option. All this does basically is dims your screen to virtually nothing when you tip your phone upside down as if you're going to put it in your pocket. That's it for this one, guys. Until next time, peace out.